Want to talk a little NBA?
Let's talk NBA, Jay. Let's get right down to it. And
Come on.
I have a question for you.
I didn't do it.
How are my look, they should win. They've been the best team all year, but how are my Celtics going to blow it?
Stop it. Well, I think this is a different Celtics team, though. I really do.
We've come so close.
I know. And it's so hard to actually get over the top, especially with the expectations.
I mean, look, 2-1 lead in the finals.
I know.
2 years ago.
But don't you have to go through?
But you're playing the Golden State.
Don't you have to go through the fire somewhat? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Golden State is an anomaly from this perspective. They didn't have to kind of go through at the beginning that hurt period.
It was brief. They got blasted by the Clippers and what?
But
14 or something like that.
But I'm saying like that collective core group, like right there, like some of the disappointment that Boston has faced.
Yeah.
Golden State didn't face that.
True. No,
you know what I mean?
Not.
So, and their
the Celtics
expectations.
have been to 5 conference finals and an NBA finals and still haven't won.
And still haven't won.
But somehow it's all Jason Tatum's fault, even though he's younger than LeBron and Mike before they ended up winning.
But isn't that part of being with the Boston Celtics too? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because the
expectations are high despite only one championship in the last 28 years.
Yeah. Well, expectations, look at New York. You haven't won since the 70s. But every year and expectations are that you should be there.
Right.
You know, so I think the difference with this Boston team is the acceptance of roles. Everybody, I think, is in a really good place on where they need to be with this particular Celtics team. Jalen and Jason kind of know those are the two, but they're feeding off of each other. I think that was a struggle.
It seems like
a little
the big criticism before was it was turns. It felt like it was, okay, this is Jason's turn.
Yep.
Now it's Jalen's turn, and they would just kind of stand around and watch.
And it's not like that.
Right.
I mean, they kind of really but when you're young, you're trying to figure that part of it out too, right?
Yeah.
Of how to play team basketball, but from an individual perspective, trying to figure out how to carve out your own niche in that space. And you know, you're competing against other young players who have accomplished a lot, and you're trying to live up to that as well. So it's always that push and pull, I think, with a young core of superstars trying to win and trying to win big and try to accomplish some individual goals as well. How do you marry those two?
Right.
You know, we've seen it a lot during, in the NBA, but it's not an easy thing to juggle. I've been through it when I was younger, and we didn't win, and we can discuss that a little bit later, but trying to figure out that fine line of trying to be the best individual player that you can be within the team structure. You know, especially when the pressure is all on you.
And the pressure's all on them now. I mean, I guess how much would you attribute adding Drew Holiday, adding Porzingis, who have kind of accepted a different role for them, and it kind of, I mean, obviously we've seen it. It's made them so much better.
Yes.
The spacing is so much better. The defense is so much better. I mean, they're on a historic offensive pace this year.
Well, think about this. Last year when things broke down with Boston, there was some turnovers and decision-making, late game situation that cost them some games.
Yep.
Because everybody was trying to do too much. Again, acceptance of roles. The ball is going to be in Jason Tatum's hands. You know that, okay? But he had to work so hard to get to a certain point that sometimes mental exhaustion caused you to turn the ball over and make bad plays.
Yep.
Down the stretch. Jaylen Brown was turning the ball over a lot.
Couldn't dribble with his left hand.
You know, but this year, because you have a seasoned Drew Holiday, that now takes the pressure off of Tatum and Brown to make plays. They can just be finishers at times. Now you don't have to worry about that. And Porzingis coming in too, he gives you what? More floor spacing.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You know, he brings everybody out, and now that's somebody too that if you need a tough bucket sometimes, he's a lob threat off that pick and roll a little bit. He can go to the free throw line and knock in his free throw. So he gives you a variety of options from a post player that you didn't have. You know, Horford to step out and hit the shot. He was a great defender, but his ability to impact the game defensively is a lot different. But also now to stretch the court, also he can make some plays, you know, at the top of the key.
Yep.
So this is a different Boston team, but, you know, the game's still got to be played. And hopefully for us, you know, we all knock on wood that injuries don't creep into any of this conversation.
Well, and you've been seeing it all year. They've done a great job, Joe Mazzulla and the staff, front office, Brad, of spreading it out. Porzingis doesn't play every game throughout the course of a week, back-to-backs. Him and Al kind of split when there's a back-to-back situation. They've really managed, Kristaps' minutes and how many games he's playing this year because it is all about the playoffs.
Yep.
And you talk about Drew Holiday. I mean, look, I love Marcus Smart. He was, the embodiment of Celtic pride, and he really deserved to be a part of a championship team. But the team had kind of reached its ceiling with him as one of the leaders and the point guard because he saw himself as on the level of Jalen and Jason, talent-wise, and who should be taking shots in clutch situations, it seemed like, as a fan and as an observer. And now you got Drew Holiday, who knows he's the fourth option. He has won a championship before. He does have the defensive abilities that Marcus has shown too. So you just mentioned that dynamic. It's really made the team that much better.
Well, but you got a player in Drew Holiday that played point guard his whole life. Not that Marcus didn't, but they played it differently.
Right.
Drew Holiday's a true point guard that understands time and score, when to kind of go for his, when to lay back defensively. He was always there. So that's why I tell people all the time, there's a lot of people that can play point guard that are not point guards, okay? Because the mentality is different, especially when you're talking about running a team down the stretch of the game. Okay, decision-making. Okay, I need to set this play up right now and get it to player A, to player B. I need to pull it back. I need to push the tempo. The pass needs it. Those things are instinctive to point guards who play that position their entire career. Someone that actually plays it out of necessity are not, they don't I'm going to say that they can't interpret on the fly that quick sometimes that decision making. Because this is not a natural instinct. And I think Marcus Smart was one of those guys that was such an outstanding basketball player. You can kind of put him in that situation. But that wasn't his forte in regards to actually running a team like it is with Drew Holiday. But let me ask you this. As a Celtics fan, a lot was put on Joe Mazzulla last year's decision-making. Can he coach? They lost. They put everything. But now that he's winning, do you think he gets enough credit for what he's been able to do this year?
No, he should be coach of the year. Look, all due respect to Oklahoma City and what's going on in Minnesota, Joe Mazzulla was put in the most impossible coaching situation maybe in the history of the NBA last season. Like, let's just be honest. 2 weeks before the season starts, all of a sudden Ime is fired for a situation we still don't know what actually happened.
To this day.
Maybe you do because you're on the inner circle and you're hearing people talking. But publicly, we do not know what happened.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a guy who wasn't even on the front row, he was in the second row coaching in the NBA, which, as we know, that is a huge difference between where you're sitting on the bench on the coaching staff. Second row Joe is a nickname for him last year because of some of the things he's just thrown out there. Hey, go coach this team that's supposed to win an NBA championship. Impossible situation. No win situation. And that was a problem last year because the toughest player on the Celtics prior to this year was the coach, was Ime Udoka. He was the toughest player the Celtics had, and he was the coach. He's the one who tells them, stop playing like a-holes and get out there and do what you do. Joe Mazzulla wasn't doing that last year.
Yeah.
But this year, you see how much he's grown. You see how much he's grown as an X's and O's guy. When to call timeouts. That was kind of the thing last year. Never called timeouts. Come on, man. What are we doing? Can we stop this momentum here?
Yeah.
Let's get a timeout.
Tough position, man.
He should be coach of the year this year, and I don't think he's getting enough credit because of how
talented,
stacked the lineup is. One of the best starting fives we've seen this century. And so,
catch 22, man.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.